What's up, you beauties? Welcome to High and Wide Radio, episode 5 already of season 6. I'm your host, Jim Icavone, and I'm joined for the episode by Jack Smith. We will be joined by our special guest, Mr. Isaiah from OMB Podcast, in just a few minutes. But first, if you're watching us live on YouTube, make sure you're subscribed and set an alert for future shows. And if you're listening as a podcast, please make sure you're listening and subscribed on Apple Podcast or Spotify to get your notifications for future episodes the minute we upload them. Jack, this is it, man. The regular season has begun. The Flyers off to a 2-1 start. Carter Hart, a big shutout last night. This is it. I mean, how are you feeling?
I feel great. I started Hart in Fantasy.
You did? I saw that.
Yeah, it's our first week, and I was unsure because I think Vancouver played really well against whoever they played before the Flyers, and I
Edmonton.
just ended up, didn't they smoke them or something? Like, am I misremembering that? Yeah. So I was like, oh, geez, do I really want to do that? And I ended up just leaving it in there. I had a good enough cushion lead, I felt. DG, that's who I'm playing, his first year in the league.
Oh. I think you're leading the league in points in the first week, too.
I also had Matthews give me back-to-back hat tricks. So, watch. And then week 2, everybody just go back to normal. But I'll take it for sure. So that was phenomenal. But when the season started, and it sucked for me to miss the preseason or the show before the season started, whatever we called that, because there was so much to talk about, so much we were seeing. And it was officially marked the 2-year mark from when Michkov's coming over. That's the way I looked at that. You start that now, get that going, and at least until he's with the Flyers. That's my view of it anyway. But as far as the people on the team now, I was really curious to see who was going to shine. You guys talked about Allison not making the team and not getting claimed. So I guess the Flyer, Danny B, looks pretty good there. It's kind of telling. Obviously certain teams felt that they couldn't take that risk. But yeah, these first 3 games happen, and it's a tale of 2 teams, and there were definitely some different roster moves with those games as well. So yeah, I mean, they're 2-1. I did say, I'm like, they're probably going to start off in October pretty 500-y, maybe even a slightly above it. They typically do that. So this is right in line with that. However, the game against Vancouver, particularly that second period, was like some of the best hockey I've seen this team play in years. Obviously, I don't expect too much of that. It's amazing they didn't score. But yeah, they got the W. That's all that matters. And there's a lot of there's not a whole lot that jumps out right now that I'm like, this is a problem. Like, I like what I'm seeing from, and I get it. Very small sample size. I like what I'm seeing from certain players, certain young players. It's exciting. And I just, I'm not concerned with anybody who's not doing anything because it's 3 games into the season and we're seeing a lot of line juggling, a lot of roster juggling. So I'm sure we'll get more into that, but yeah, I mean, it was definitely a great game to see before the pod.
That's kind of how I feel too at the beginning of seasons. Now, maybe it's unfair, but if a guy starts out the season really well, like for example, Travis Konecny, in my opinion, has kind of hit the ground running here. Looks like he hasn't missed a beat since last season. I think that was maybe a fear for some people. I think Konechny's got 3 goals already, correct?
Yeah.
I got the stats right in front of me here and I'm asking, but that was a guy I think, we were all expecting to play well. On the flip side, if there are guys who maybe aren't up to snuff yet, I'm not going to freak out, and the title of our episode, Morgan Frost got scratched, obviously is going to be a big topic for us tonight. And we'll get to him. But guys like that, Travis Sanheim, too quick to judge. I can't judge a guy off 3 games. It's gonna take me at least a month to say, okay, let's see what Travis Sanheim is this year. I mean, if you listen to our show, my thoughts on Sanheim, but I'm not going to crush him after 3 games, right? And that goes for any player. But like I said, on the flip side, if a guy starts out hot, starts out well, put the work in the offseason, I'll absolutely, recognize a player like that. So with no further ado, we are about 6 minutes into the show, and I want to get to our guests here so we can get to our big topics. Mr. Isaiah from OMB Podcast. Isaiah, it's been a little while. How you been, man?
All right, man. How you
It's
guys?
doing all right.
Good
Hockey's
day,
back,
sir.
right?
No complaints.
Yeah, no complaints. How's Florida life down there?
It's nice and cool, you know.
Is it
Like
really?
82 and goes down to like maybe 60 or 50 at night, you know. So it's all right.
Oh,
I'd kill for some 80s weather up here right now, man. It got chilly quick. Good golf weather down there. So, yeah, glad to have you on. And let's talk some hockey. So, the first thing I want to talk about is Igor Zamula. So, you mentioned last night on Twitter, had a pretty solid game. I only got to watch about 10 minutes of his. He had 15 minutes worth of ice time last night. I only watched about 10 minutes. But yeah, I want to talk about Zamula a little bit. I want to hear what you thought of his game. What did you like from Zamula last night? Because this is a guy I had low expectations. And Jack, I think maybe I don't want to speak for you, Jack, but I don't think you were thrilled with Zamula either heading into this season.
I don't think he showed us a whole lot. I was kind of like seeing him in the lineups. I'm like, what did this guy do? Maybe he's just doing the right things at camp and they want to see what they have because he's been with the organization for so long. But I felt like I had to eat some crow after last night's game.
Right. So if this is a guy that gives us something, that's a huge boost. Isaiah, what did you see from Zamula last night that you liked?
What I see from Zamula is a lot of stuff we didn't know about. From my angle, I'm thinking, okay, it's like sure to get off the pot time with a lot of these prospects. And it's like he's up on the conveyor belt. Okay, Zamula, put him in, you know, and see what he can do. What's the promise? The promise is a guy who's got a lot of length. He uses his stick well. He did that in the first game, right? Makes a poke check, goes back the other way versus Columbus, and we get a goal out of it. And that's what you would envision. A guy, he's about 6'3"?
Yeah,
right?
big dude.
And he thinks the game pretty well. It doesn't. He's kind of like a little bit slow twitch. So like what he's thinking doesn't always translate to him, you know, responding and reacting the way you would want him to in real time. But that, you know, with bigger guys, especially real skinny guys that have to fill out, that can take some time. You know, I think of guys like Shel Samuelson and some other players. It's like the light goes on and there's linkage between what he's thinking and what he's able to execute on the ice. So he has that size. He seems to have next level vision for a guy who's more of like a 4.5 as a ceiling. And you want to see it. You've seen it at lower levels, and it doesn't always translate. Here's what we didn't know. I didn't know he had a shoulder problem. So he comes back from shoulder surgery, right? And off the ice, he gains like about 15 or 20 pounds, which he really needs because he hasn't shown the durability. And a lot of that is like a stick, is what they call like an ectomorph. A skinny guy has trouble, you know, keeping weight on. And that's going to hurt you. That you get to a point when you're that skinny, you know, it's game 50, you get into a corner with a forward, and you kind of start shying away from contact, right? So what we're seeing with Zamula is the promise that conceivably he won't have that issue and he can take advantage of some of the assets he brought from lower levels and bring them to the NHL and be a nice, functional, homegrown defenseman. He's not going to be, you know, at the top of the second pair list, but he could be with a decent partner or someone who could be a good complement there, or more than likely a third pair guy who has a little bit better ability to think the game and eventually will do better with tape to tape passing versus off the bat, you know, banking it off the glass and boards, which he's still kind of doing a little bit right now.
I don't think that you could have explained Igor Zamula any better. Honestly, like that was great insight from you there, Isaiah. Jack, what do you see from Zamula? I mean, I think Isaiah is pretty spot on and maybe a little bit more patient than I've been, as I'm pretty much known for on our show, Isaiah. Whereas, Jack, if you remember, a couple of years back when it was time to get rid of Nolan Patrick, I'm over here, caught him, right? Instead of getting something for him. And I'm guilty of that with some guys, right? So Zamula, I'm like, you know what?
I was right there with you on Patrick.
Yeah. So I'm like, what are we doing here again with an undrafted free agent? We've been down this road before. He's wearing the same number as Myers. Like, what are we doing here? Give the spot to Andre and let's move forward here. But I mean, give him a shot. Why not? Why? I mean, Tortorella even said it. They don't want to lose assets. And Zamula is still young, still an asset. see what you can get out of him. He's noticeably bigger. You mentioned put on some weight. Yeah. So why not? I think you're spot on, Isaiah. Thank you for that.
Yeah, I have to agree. And he said a lot of stuff that Tortorella had mentioned with him not shooting the puck off the glass so much. But you also mentioned seeing things that we expect of him and things that we didn't expect of him. And one thing I didn't expect from him was on his goal, the poise that he had to outweight the block and take a hell of a wrist shot and just really pick his spot there. I mean, I'm not expecting him to do that all the time, but the fact that it's in his arsenal in any capacity is just a plus. So, and to Jim's point, like, we're pretty jaded with some of our prospects, especially the ones that date back as far as Hextall, which he does barely, but he does. And he's been in our system for so long. But I guess luckily for us, we had enough openings on, unlike Allison, where there's a lot of forwards, there's a lot of openings on D here. So, hey, take advantage of the opportunity. Seems to early on anyway. I mean, he's got 2 games played. He's a +3. He's got a goal and an assist. How much more can you ask for? So, and it sounds like he may be benched for Andre, but that's nothing against him or anything like that. They're just, this is their game plan they had, and I'm fine with that. But you really can't ask for much more.
No, I agree with that. And I think the thing is that Zamula showed the ability. You talked about having the patience to hit that shooting lane and to see those seams, passing and shooting. He showed that when he was in Russia. So this is what I meant by being able to translate it to a higher level, and we'll see if he can do it on a consistent basis. And if not, here's the great news. They've got a lot of guys. You got Adder. We're talking about Andre, and we also have Jennings, who I'm not as high on, but, pretty much you know what you got with him. But I think Andre would be a good discussion point, because I disagree with moving along with Andre just yet, and I'll tell you why.
Okay. Yeah, let's get
Andre has the higher ceiling, right? So for me, my insurance policy with Andre is, listen, he's coming over to North America. He's only, I think he played a little bit last year with the Phantoms, right? So what I see is next level beyond what Zamula has in terms of vision, offensive instincts, and balls of steel, right? Okay, I like that.
Balls, yeah.
So he just like Brink up front. You see those 2 guys on the power play, you got real catalysts there, people that make things happen, make other players better. The thing is, though, he's such a high event player right now, Andre, good and bad. If you could just get him some time at the AHL, it's a development league, let him get like 20, 30 games in his system, take out some of the, the garbage in his game and the unnecessary risk. Then he comes up, he's a staple, and he could be a good second pair guy, and he could be your power play quarterback, for the foreseeable future, at least until they get a number 1 defenseman. So that's kind of where I have a divide there with him.
Yeah, well, I totally agree on what you said about the type of player he is. 100%. I'm on record saying this guy is going to quarterback the PP1 soon. I don't know about soon, because I think they're trying to figure out what they could do at York, who looks pretty good. But I think he can quarterback a top power play, at worst a second pair D. But here's my thing. Like, it looks like they have some kind of a plan. It looks like, it's a training camp battle that they've extended into the regular season kind of thing, right? Like, there's no rush. Like, they don't need to say, okay, this is our 6. Like, they're taking their time figuring things out. I do think eventually Andre gets sent down, because you don't got to worry about him getting claimed or whatever. And Zamula looks good. So, yeah, I agree with how you described Andre there. I'm excited for him, but yeah, I mean, you could send him to the Phantoms if you want. The other thing you mentioned about Zamula got my attention, perked me up a little bit, is when I was watching his first shift. He got that puck to goal and it went in. That is, if you're an offensive defenseman, and I'm sure Jack's sick of me talking about this now. If you're an offensive defenseman and you can't get the puck to the net, I'm automatically out on you. It's just my thing. It's just a thing for me. So Zamula, when he was coming up, all we heard was he was this cocky Russian kid. He's doing the Ovechkin whenever he scores, yada, yada. We haven't seen any of that since he's been with the Flyers. Hasn't really looked confident. He seems pretty quiet, that kind of thing. Comes out last night, scores a goal in the first 90 seconds. Got the puck to goal from the blue line. I love that. I'm like, oh, Zamula can find the seam. He can get the puck to the net. Let's maybe see a little more of that, All of a sudden, you got a threat on your third pair. But we'll see. Like I said, I'm not going to get crazy. You like to see it. Can we be consistent? And that's going to be a taboo, not a taboo word, but that's going to be a word. Consistency, I think, with this Flyers team, as we've seen through the first 3 games. Who can be consistent? The consistent players are the ones that stick in the league, the ones that are great. It's hard to be consistent in the NHL. So speaking of consistency here, and let's move forward a little bit. Let's talk about the cover of the episode. Morgan Frost, healthy scratched during the Flyers opening game. And there's a lot of people on Twitter who poo-pooed that. And that's, I know it's the reason why we do podcasts is because we have opinions. I don't know that I have an opinion on, is it a bad look to sit Morgan Frost for your home opener? So I'll ask you guys. Jack, I'll ask our guest first. Isaiah, what did you think about sitting Morgan Frost for the home opener?
Well, I'm of 2 minds on this. Like many people, and I think our Dan Silver tweeted out earlier, it's kind of like this phenomenon. Torts has his guys, and he's going to give more slack to his guys and less to other guys. Clearly, Morgan Frost is a guy like a toilet seat goes up and down, right? Mm-hmm. So I think the front office has had to do more of a sell job on Torts on behalf of Tortorella, and it just isn't going to have that tolerance level. But I think there's another dynamic that maybe some people are missing. I think Tortorella is looking at this situation now that they're rebuilding. He is seeing for the first time in a long time in this organization, young guys competing for roster spots, and not just guys that are like the 10th or 12th forward, but guys that are going to be here that are in mid-6 up, that'll play important roles here. Brink, Forster, and obviously Frost and Tippett. Now Tippett's more or less in, he's in like Flynn, but Frost is still on the periphery of that. And I think what he's trying to do is part of this new standard. They had the new video part 2 today. I think part of that, the cultural standard that they're trying to enmesh here, that was here for like 50 years from the Cup years on. I think if guys have to always be on their toes about a job, even someone who's in all the features and promos like Frost is, and supposedly, someone who could be a very important piece going forward, they want to keep him consistent, like you're saying. If you look at his numbers, I know it's only like 14 minutes average a game for over 2 games. Sure, sample size real small. He's at the bottom. His possession quality, his possession overall, coursing, it's in the toilet. He's last. So, I mean, what you see is what has actually been happening quantitatively. And I didn't notice him. They needed more from him. And I think he just wants to jump on that as part of telling all the young guys, hey, anybody can sit. We need you to go out there and play to this new standard.
Yeah. Jack, you want to follow up?
Yeah, that's pretty good. I mean, I like the same tweet you were referring to. I couldn't agree more with that. I do think the Torts has his guys. However, I more so agree with the second point. This should be an open season. This is the year. These are the years, really, to experiment, to see who's got what it takes, to see who's not weak-minded, who can handle being sat and come back into the game and whatnot. Like, it all makes sense. I'm totally fine with it. Morgan Frost still, I don't care what he did last year, half of last year. He still has a lot to prove to me. Tortorella does not have much to prove to me. I've been watching him since he was with Tampa. So, he does not have a lot to prove to me. Almost everybody on this team has something to prove to me, especially Morgan Frost. So he can do whatever he wants. And if Morgan Frost is ultimately has the mindset to play in this game, then he'll figure it out and get going. He is a notoriously slow starter. I joked. I was on another show. We were doing some bets over under. I said, I don't know what he's going to finish with points wise. I think the bet was 50 or 60 points, something like that. I said, well, I'll take the under on the first 41 games of the season, whatever the number is, because Frost is not going to show up. And then we had a nice chuckle. And then to see this, it's like, yeah, sometimes you're a little too on the nose. And I'm sure he'll come out of it, at least at first, okay. But ultimately, when this is all said and done, it would not surprise me if they moved on from him with the amount of talent they have coming in. I'm not saying they have to, but the amount of talent they have coming in and whatnot, and who's competing and who's showing up. I mean, I'm all for it. Like if you play to stay, nobody has a lot. Maybe Coots, in his 8-year deal, has a name set in stone on this team. Everybody else, you have to prove to stay here. Which, Jim, it goes back to what you were saying about consistency.
Yeah, and so so here was my thing with Frost. I'm trying to look at this like from Torts' perspective here, and obviously everybody knows he's a no BS guy, right? He's trying to weed out the inconsistency because let's face it, the Flyers have been inconsistent for the past 10 years. One thing's been consistent, and that's the inconsistency, right? When guys like Voracek were here, JVR, Gostisbehere, what was inconsistent? The effort was inconsistent. You remember complaining about these guys? Like they turn it on when they want kind of thing. And good teams are consistent, right? Their floors are high. When they're not playing well, they're still better than the bad teams in the NHL. So I'm looking at it from Tortorella's perspective. The season started 3 games ago. Where's Morgan Frost? He's late. You know what I'm saying? And the slow start thing, I'm trying to see from Torts' perspective. Maybe he's not a Frost guy, but he needs to pick it up now. It's not when Morgan Frost wants to get it going. It's when the team needs Morgan Frost. And like I said, the season started 3 games ago. Where is he? Isaiah, you mentioned his ice time. Yeah, he's about 14 minutes. The by far the lowest. I'm sorry, aside from the fourth line guys, Hathaway, Delorier, Paling, Frost is at the very bottom. And he's a guy that the Flyers are counting on for offense. And, that's the new standard. Unacceptable to show up late for the season, and I'm okay with that, So, yeah. Any other thoughts on Frost there, guys?
Yeah, I just think about this. If there's a continuum from last year, from the standard that they set last year, on one side, you have Travis Konecny. He gets benched. How did he respond? On the other side, you have Kevin Hayes. How did he respond? And how did that turn out? Exactly. So I think all these players are going to be gauged by where they fall along that continuum.
Yeah. So I love that you brought that up. Everything is a challenge with Tortorella. He doesn't do anything. He's on your side, even when he's benching you, in my opinion, because he wants to see you come back from that. How are you going to come back from being benched from the home opener? Are you going to come in with a puss on your face, your head down, yada, yada? Or are you going to try to, score a goal and look at me like F you, like you're going to do that again? That's what he wants.
Yes.
He wants you to prove him wrong. He's trying to rip the potential out of you. So, a lot of people are on Twitter crying, yada, yada. Everything Tortorella does, there's a reason, and it's always a positive, in my opinion, because it doesn't always come off that way. There's a positive reason for it. It's tough love. And we've been talking, Jack, how long we've been talking, these guys have been coddled a little bit. They needed a little bit of tough love.
I know a lot of them aren't here anymore, but if there's any team that needs to get that out of their system, it's this team. And the crowd that's complaining is mostly the only play the kids people. Like, I don't want to see Delorier or Paling or Hathaway, just kids, nothing but kids. Like it's a video game. Yeah, don't work that way. And that's why I like this. Like you gotta prove you belong here and you can stay here. It's a 2-step process. We always bring up Vorobiev. He did everything he could to make the team. Did almost nothing to stay here. And then when he got sent back down, he had nothing left to even get himself back in the mix. So you get benched. It happens. It happens to everybody. It's happened to some top players. Prove you're better than that. Prove that you can stay. And yeah, get going. You're the second line center. Go on a bad team, like going in, like. You got to show up. You got to do things. So, yeah, it's the last thing you can do is just be a ghost.
So we have just a couple comments here before we move along. Teddy checking in. Hang on. There we go. Teddy, what did you guys think about the Coots penalty shot? Should he be more conservative instead of trying to show off with the behind the back? Did you guys see that goal?
It's beauty.
It was a beauty.
I love whatever works. I can't tell you how many times I've seen Voracek skate straight in, barely stick handle and either missed the net or hit his pad or something really stupid. I remember complaining about it and then being, oh, he's looking for something. Is it the back of the net? Because it's not working. So you do whatever you got to do to get the puck in. So be my guest.
Yeah, I mean, he's had enough time off to practice all that stuff. So, I mean, it's not a great shock. And I have no problem because like I just said, I mean, he probably had all that time because he really could have played last year, or so he told us. So he's probably been practicing that stuff over and over, and he's got probably a couple more in the bag too. I'm not worried about it.
Yeah, I'm not going to complain about that one. It was fun to watch, and it went in, so I won't complain.
All that matters.
We have Oakham's Razor checking in. Morgan Frost will get moved at the draft. I just feel it. All right, so he's going to stick around for a year.
It'll be a hell of a draft. If we get some more first-round picks, Frost moved at the draft, I mean, that'd be something.
So here's kind of a random thought for you guys. I don't believe Shane Pinto is signed yet. The Ottawa Senators kind of dragging that along for whatever reason.
Yes.
The
answer is yes.
Shane Pinto liking every single Philadelphia post. I've seen him liking stuff with Phillies, with the Fly, with the Eagles. Like, let's go. All about it.
Yeah, maybe there's something brewing there. Who knows? But that's pretty unprofessional what they're doing up there, no? Like,
I think that's why Pinto's taking it to social media a little bit, just a little bit.
I mean, it's signing Tarasenko that way. Like, and Shane Pinto, the priority was Tarasenko. And when they knocking down the doors to sign a guy like Tarasenko who's off his game, he's had 4 shoulder surgeries. I mean, you get your guy locked in. You're just starting your climb up, up the hill to be, hopefully for them, a Stanley Cup contender. And they run out and get Tarasenko and basically shut out Pinto. I'd be pissed if I were him.
Yeah, I mean, he's not playing hockey. I don't think he's not getting paid. He doesn't have a contract, right?
Maybe these Frost for Pinto rumors are going to come back around again. It makes all too much sense.
Start them up. Start them up now. All right, let's get to 1 or 2 more and we'll move along here. Just call Toronto and send him north for Nylander. I'm assuming this is Frost. Have you guys seen the start that the Maple Leafs, core 3 are off to?
I've seen Matthews start. I can go.
Matthews 6 goals. Nylander's got a couple goals and a couple assists. So I don't know if that's going to happen anytime soon. Did they re-sign him up there? By the way, do you know off the top of your head? Sorry,
Matthews
spot. Nylander.
No,
I think it's his 1-year deal. He's got
last year deal.
Yeah, I don't think they can. I don't know how they're going to pull that off.
Yeah.
No, I haven't signed him yet. I just looked it up. Yeah.
Okay. Teddy, with our last one here, I definitely don't see Torts staying longer than Danny. Yeah, I don't think
Torts is the guy that takes us to the promised land. I think this is, and I don't think he might still be with the organization. I just don't see him as the head coach. I don't see him as the guy. Maybe we make 1 playoff berth with him, maybe 2. I don't know, but I just don't see him as the guy that when we do get to the promised land, he's behind the bench. This feels very part of the actual rebuild foundation pieces. And then maybe he moves along in some capacity. I feel like I've seen it before, and it makes a little too much sense with, they bring in somebody else to really go for it and stop the building eventually.
He seems to know that he may not be here, and it looks like he's at peace with that, which...
That makes me think he's got a role in the front office somewhere.
Sure. I admire that a little bit because he's putting in all the work here to help change culture, to do this, do that. And he knows that he may not be here to see the fruits of it. Do you know what I mean? Like that's character right there, in my opinion.
Look, if they move on from Torts and they get a new coach, we'll bring back, if it was me, I'd bring back Torts personally to stand at the door with a shotgun. If anybody pulls that country club crap, that he can just go buck wild. Okay. He'll always have a role in my book.
Now, I was going to say that, I think that I think he always admired this organization from afar, and maybe that might go back to the semifinals back in 2004, right? Mm-hmm. And the way that crowd was, and when he would visit Philadelphia with his teams. So I think he saw what Philadelphia was, and I think he does. I think he's sincere when he says he likes the idea of being able to restore that. And I agree with Jack. I think that could extend into his post-coaching life,
I hope so.
I think he actually did say that in an interview when we first hired him about playing here during the Stanley Cup, hearing the crowd, seeing how we were, seeing how the team, knowing how the team was, because Tampa was on the up and up, but the Flyers were always at the top at that time. So
Right.
yeah, I mean everything lines up perfectly for that. It seems like a Flyer. He really does. The way he is, how he acts, like. I have Ranger fan friends who obviously hate Philly who still like Tortorella. They're just like, I just loved how he, is an asshole. I just love him.
All right. What do you think? Let's get to one more topic, and we'll let you run, Isaiah.
All right, sure.
Cool. All right. So something I found interesting. Well, actually, let me ask you this, Isaiah. Flyers are off to a 2-1 start. It's been somewhat inconsistent. The Blue Jacket game, yes, the Flyers won. In my opinion, Flyers didn't look great. I thought the Blue Jackets didn't look good. Flyers they just scored more goals than them, in my opinion. It could have gone either way. It's what I thought. They come out against Ottawa. Ottawa's home opener. Flyers get the doors blown off. And then it was the opposite story at home in Philly during the Flyers home opener. What's your observation so far about the Flyers start? What have you impressed with? And, what are you not so much impressed with through 3 games?
Well, that's a tough question because I come into this year thinking, well, the defense is a train wreck.
Mm-hmm.
There's going to be a lot of mistakes. If they're going to try and break in some of these kids, you're going to have to live with some of those mistakes. And they don't have as much the minute muncher. And I wasn't really impressed with what they're going to see out on the ice with Mark Stahl. What his contributions are really going to be more in the locker room and practice and helping guys develop winning habits, because he's been with winning organizations. He's been to 2 Cup finals with the Rangers and just last year with the Panthers. But that being said, again, this is low expectation stuff. I can't say that I'm really surprised or disappointed in anything. Maybe Allison, I thought, would be able to win towards over, but frankly, with what we've seen from Brink, especially, and to some degree Forster, I can't blame him, right? And if the league doesn't take him, like Jack was referring to, hey, that's like a proof source right there that Allison is not held in that high regard. So I guess that there's something I'm a little surprised at, maybe with the 3 goalie thing, but even that's going to resolve itself over time. It's just a matter of having that feeling from the front office perspective that Sandstrom won't be claimed. And, we haven't seen Ursan yet. I think he's supposed to start tomorrow, but I haven't heard. Do we get something different?
I haven't seen anything yet.
Yeah,
nothing otherwise.
Maybe a little bit let down until last night by Tippett, who had not really been playing that well. But I mean, it's only 3 games with a young team that's maybe got a ceiling of 80 to 85 points at best. Anywhere from 75 to 85 points is what their potential is. And they're going to ship guys out. I think it's just too early. I'm just kind of taking it in. To be perfectly honest, we're not far enough along for me to develop anything. Maybe the positive here, Bobby Brink, when he touches the puck, he's a catalyst on the power play. It's like he's the only guy that can make this thing go even a little bit, right? The puck seems to follow him around. He seems to go where the puck's going to be. And you know what he can do? Because you look at him and Frost, and you see very similar skill sets. Even the one guy's a good skater, a really good skater in Frost when he moves his legs anyway. And then Brink is average at best. Then in traffic, Brink is a much better player. And you saw that last night in several situations. If he can keep that up, then you really have something. Then when players play well in traffic, then other guys around get open and he can hold the puck and dangle and hit them with passes. He has that kind of vision. So I'm a little surprised Bobby Brink has been as impressive as he has been. And I'm hoping he can keep that up. That's one of my big hopes for this team, that he can establish a place on the team. Because listen, you're coming off 2 years in a row, the worst power play in the league. They got to find a way to carve out at least one unit that can get them out of that spot, so they're not such a joke. And it's almost like they should turn down the penalty, because when you can't score in the power play like this, it's almost like it just saps the momentum and then becomes like a negative. Oh, well, we have a power play. All right, well, we're gonna have a down period for a little bit after that.
Yeah. Love it. Isaiah, love your perspective, man. Love your insights. Always a pleasure talking to you, talking hockey, having you on the show. Where can everybody find your work? And yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you can find the OMB podcast, which we're with Dan Silver and the chef and myself at OMB Puck, at OMB Puck on Twitter. If Elon has a thrombo, we're also on Getter. We can at OMB Puckcast, at OMB Puckcast, but mainly at OMB Puck on Twitter. And we'll have a show coming out pretty soon. And thanks again for having me on. I appreciate it.
Hey, thanks for coming short
Yeah,
notice too, by the way.
Great
Always
talk.
a pleasure talking hockey. Tell the boys we said hi, Dan and Chef. Great guys. Great show over at OMB Puck. We appreciate you taking the time, Isaiah, and we'll let you run.
All right, man. Thanks. Take care.
Have a good night. All right, ladies and gents, there he is, the man, the myth, the legend. All right, Jack, let's get to some of the the one topic I wanted to bring up, but I wanted to talk about something maybe a little bit more fun. I wanted to get some of Isaiah's insights on the season. Sean Couturier banged up, and we don't know why. We don't know what, but didn't practice. Is that correct?
Yeah, he was not skating. He was not seen at practice. Definitely raised some eyebrows, to say the least, rightfully so. His usage from Tortorella was right at the top. So you wonder, like, is he overusing him already to start the season? But sure enough, there he is playing, scoring a pretty nice penalty shot and doing what he does. Maybe anybody would be stupid not to question it. Seriously. Like, I think Jordan Hall got a little bit from Tortorella. Like, I'm not going to tell you, like, he's like, I'm not telling you what the diagnosis is. Stop asking. But at the same time, rightfully so, we have to ask from what we've been through with him and whatnot. Hopefully it was just a maintenance thing. They're human beings, could be something small, something little. To see him play in the way he did, I'll back off for now, but it's definitely something to monitor going forward. How many times we hear this throughout the season?
It is going to be something to watch. And, as we're saying this, I'm looking at average time on ice and player plus minus. Sean Couturier's got 2 points in 3 games, which is great. He's +4, leads the team in plus minus, which, some people will say it doesn't matter, but guy hasn't played hockey in almost 2 years. Leads the team in plus minus and is 3rd on the roster in time on ice, behind only Travis Sanheim and Cam York, 2 guys who you would assume would lead the team in ice time, being 2 of the team's top defensemen. Sean Couturier is averaging 21 minutes a game of ice time through 3 games. I mean, I can't hide it. If you've listened to the show, I could be a Sean Couturier doubter, right? Like, I don't know how healthy he can be and how long he could stay healthy for. Just going based off what we heard the injury was or is, that he sustained. I didn't expect this, Jack. Did you?
I didn't know what to expect. I mean, it seems like he got the full bill of health. I'm healthy. So you play Couturier how you normally would. Why else are you paying him for 8 years at 7.75 or whatever it is? That's what you do. You do that. I understand. Maybe you want to pull back a little bit, but he's going to be Sean Couturier doing what he does. At the same time, we have heard things and know things, and it seemed a little risky, but you got to see what you have when your asset. And that was a big red flag at the beginning of the season. Now, remember, he hasn't played a regular season game in how long?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I could see after 2 games being a little, we don't know the extent of it. And they sure as hell weren't forthcoming with it. So you take it as you will. He played a full game the next game. His usage is still there. He looked effective. His good stats show he's effective. So I just can't panic yet. But it's already like a here we go and a dodge bullet at the same time, in a sense. But it's still here. I remember that time and they're early in the season. So another 2 games, another 3 games, we hear something like this again. I'm really going to go, things that make you go, So
right.
it's going to be something you have to monitor.
If it was nothing, just put any talk to bed, put it to rest. Just say it was a maintenance day. You know what I mean?
And that's not what I alluded to. I was like, maybe it's me, but from what we think it could be, you can't do that. You don't know. You just don't know.
So that's my thing with Torts. He may not tell you the truth, but he's not going to lie to you either. Does that make sense?
That makes perfect sense. Well, the words will come out of his mouth, but true and false has been avoided.
Right. He doesn't know. He doesn't owe you the truth. He doesn't have to tell you what's really going on. You know,
but he's handle the truth, and you're not entitled to the truth.
That's why I really like this guy, because he doesn't have to tell you what's really going on, but he's also not going to lie. Like, there's a reason Coots didn't practice. They said he's banged up. Okay, so it's a maintenance day. He didn't say that though, so we'll see. It's something that we like to do, is speculate. That would be speculating in a negative way. And with the start that Coots has had, we'll try to stay positive and hope for the best here. They haven't said he's not going to play. They haven't announced any of that stuff yet. They play the Oilers tomorrow night. So I expect to see Coots out there unless told otherwise. So, all right, let's move along here just a bit. Travis Konecny, Jack. We mentioned him at the top of the show. I didn't realize just how hot of a start he's had. He has the only power play goal through 3 games and has 3 goals in 3 games, 2 assists for 5 points. And I think he got in a fight. Didn't he get in a fight? Was it last night?
What's that?
Maybe I thought it was TK. Excuse me.
Yeah. I mean, 14 penalty minutes on the season. I would hope that one of them's a fight.
So, TK, it was kind of, it's funny because, years past, I was anti-TK. Now,
anti-playoff TK.
Anti-playoff TK. Now I couldn't be more TK. This guy's a stud. He's a star player in the NHL, Jack. Hit the ground running. I'm sorry?
Picked up right where he left off.
You love to see that, right? And that's the kind of guy Torts wants here, right? Hit the ground running. Let's go. Season started. We're 3 games in. Don't wait. They need more of those guys. I don't think any other player on the team currently has more than a goal. So they'll need to pick that up. But you want to touch on TK at all here?
No, I mean, not much more to add except for like when you kind of break down what a Tortorella player is, TK doesn't really fit that bill, just stylistically speaking. But when you're this good and you produce, I mean, you're a star. You play, which is where I think the fallback is with Frost. And I think there's a similarity there, except for he does not produce. He does not even get the ball going, get the puck moving until very late in the game or anything like that. So TK is, I'm really curious what's going to happen at this trade deadline. Where the team
he's a candidate,
is,
Jack?
What's that?
You think he's a TDL candidate?
Only if somebody really gets stupid. But it's been done before. It's happened before. If a team that is really trying to get over, you got a guy with some term. You got to look at it from Danny's perspective. Like when they're really ready to rock, and as much as you'd like to have TK here for that run, can you turn down certain offers with this draft class coming out? Like it'll be interesting. And it's early, 3 games, what have you, but he is exactly how he looked last year. And he was phenomenal last year. He is a star player. So, and you kind of want to, strike while the iron's hot. If he gets hurt or he, for whatever reason, slows down and whatnot, could bite you. So it's really interesting to see, because we are in a rebuilding mode. Like, how old's Konecny, for Christ's sake, at this point?
I think he's 27, but hang on, I'll click.
Pretty young still. I'm not going to lie. It is pretty. But again, you're going to have to turn his contract's up in like 2 years, right? So he's going to want some money too. Are you going to, back up a truck to him and then still kind of rebuild and whatnot? Normally you would say, yeah, but you have this Couturier contract, you have this Sanheim contract, you have Ryan Ellis's contract still, unless there was no cap or the cap finally exploded or something like that. Like it is something to consider, because you do have some years to work with it, but you don't want to get screwed either. You don't want to screw yourself. It's been done.
It's true. According to Gary Bettman, the cap will be going up before next season, but I feel like we've been hearing that the last
It always
handful
goes
of
up.
years.
It's how much.
Right.
Yeah, Gary, look, you don't trust Penguins fans. Don't trust Gary. Like,
See what you did there.
Yeah, well, the shoe fits. I mean, he is the worst. And I know this, I think is it John Daly, Bob Daly? I can't remember. He represents he's like an agent, represents the players and whatnot. And when there's disputes, he's always on the player side. And they do need a voice out there. And he was saying, because the cap is so bad, I've been saying forever how bad the cap is in hockey. That certain teams are foregoing certain players and, certain positions because they just can't afford it. And that's not the full story, but at the end of the day, hockey has easily far and away the worst cap structure. And I think it's to keep some of the bottom teams in it because other teams would just outspend them like tremendously. But there's no reason it should be this low. You can give me the COVID and whatnot, but every other sport doesn't have the limitations where you have to have the cap go up like it does. It just is what it is for them. They figure it out. There's more movement and flexibility where the NHL doesn't have that. So you have to really look ahead at who you're signing and whatnot. And every time we hear that, I remember in 2021 or 2020, even in 2 years, this will all come back and the cap's going to go up like $6 million. I think it's gone up $1 million is the most it's gone up a year, maybe a little bit more. Like it's been nothing. It's at, what's it at, like 90 something? It should be like at 112, and it's not that big jump we were told is coming, just keeps getting pushed back further and further and further. I don't trust anything Gary Bettman says when it comes to the cap. So you have to act like you're not going to get much help from the league. And that's why you have to make tough decisions.
I agree. All right. Before we get to the hottest topic in our topic list, I have here, I'm looking at rotating rookies, Jack. Is this something that you wanted to discuss on the show tonight?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. So it looks like the Flyers are kind of rotating out Andre and Zamula and Brink and Forrester until the home opener when Bobby Brink and Tyson Forrester each played and Morgan Frost was benched. What are your thoughts on that, Jack? Is this something that you like, something that you dislike, or what?
I think if the team was going for it, I wouldn't like it very much. This is the perfect year to do something like this. You're not going for anything. You're in a rebuild. You want to see everybody. And they're not going to do this all year. You can't. So you're going to go with somebody and then maybe you make a change later or whatnot, just so guys can be more consistent and get on a roll and what have you. But like, I like seeing like different looks, different guys get a taste of the NHL and whatnot. And if they weren't doing this, like you might not see Zamula. I mean, you probably would because the defense is so bad, but you never know. You might not. They might roll with Mark Stahl and whoever else. And you get to see that game from Zamula. I like the benching of Frost only. I mean, I'm not saying that's a different situation within itself. What I like seeing was Brink and Forrester on the team at the same time. Though that was the best game this team has played this year. And I'm not saying they're always going to play like that, but I really enjoyed seeing the young guys really be all over the ice and really make things happen. And I don't know why you would not like it in this current situation the team is in right now. I still can't believe Allison's not here, but again, nobody claimed him either. So I think if they could do this all year, I'd be somewhat for it with more stretches so guys can be more consistent. But I want to see every asset this team has.
Yeah. I personally, I'm a fan of it. Like what's the rush to set a lineup? I'll be honest here, what I'm not really a fan of is Mark Stahl getting 18 minutes a night and playing all 3 games. Like maybe maybe he can be in. Yeah, he was. Maybe he can get in the rotation there or something. But I've always been a fan of, play the kids, just not all of them. Get 1 or 2, 3 tops in the lineup because, in my opinion, you play too many of the young guys. These games go the other way quick. Like, how much can you learn getting your butt whooped night in and night out kind of thing? Sprinkle them in. And the way they're doing it is, okay, well, we only want to sprinkle in 2, 3, 4 of these guys at a time. Here's how we're going to do it. It's like an extension of training camp. Let's see how Andre plays in this situation. Andre's only played 1 game, by the way. Zamula seems to have kind of taken the reins there, which is great. So, this is what you want. It's. I think Forster, Brink still each have played 2 games apiece. Brink through 3 games looks like he's going to stick around. I had him as a guy that was eventually going to be sent down. And, I still think there's going to be a point where that happens, where the Phantoms may be making a playoff run, getting ready for the playoffs and whatnot. The Flyers aren't going to be playing for much. Brink looks like he's going to stick around. And Isaiah kind of hit the nail on the head with him as well. This is a guy that the Flyers need. They have some guys that could put the puck in the net. I'm looking at Forster, Farabee, Atkinson, Tippett, Konecny. You need a guy like Brink that can move the puck, push pace a little bit. Looking to set guys up. It's going to sound weird to say this, Jack, and I am in no means comparing them. But you know who Brink reminds me of a little bit when I watch him? Maybe it's the build and, the way he plays a bit. You know who I'm going to say?
If it's Cole Caulfield, I'm logging off.
No. He almost reminds me of Mark Recchi a little bit. Like, I'm not saying that he is, and I'm not saying that he's ever going to put up – he's not going to sniff the career that Mark Recchi had. But he looks like him out there. He's thick. He's a little smaller, looking to set up teammates, things like that. Brink can be a player for the Flyers. He's been fun to watch.
The telling thing about Brink that Isaiah said for me, and I know that they're currently different positions, he, in some way he still made Frost sound expendable with Brink.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, at the end of the day, especially on the power play, like as long as somebody gets the unit going, and he alluded to Brink was the guy who do that. And I do notice that when Frost gets pressured up close, it's very quick to get rid of it. And a lot of times that's a blind backhanded pass, which has worked out sometimes, but not always, where Brink is more likely to actually stick handle and look like he's good at hockey,
Mm-hmm.
which is more important to me than the skating comparison, So I'm more inclined to put my eggs in that basket. And yeah, they need more players like that. And this is competition. These in and out and whatnot. Look what Zamula did. If I'm Andre, it's like, well, I got to, if I want to, really prove that I belong here, or he hasn't clearly won the battle over me, I got to prove something here. I got to do something here. And hopefully he doesn't try to do too much and have it backfire, but that's why they're here. They're here to make mistakes and see how they handle it and what have you. So like, it's very hard to have an issue with this already kind of seeing some positives.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think Isaiah said that he said it's going to work itself out, and it's the perfect way to look at it. I mean, that's what's going to happen. They're not going to carry 3 goalies all year. They're not going to be doing this flip-flopping back and forth all year. It's going to end at some point. Guys going to be cemented in the roster. But instead of, sending a guy down, calling him up, back and forth, yada, yada, this doesn't hurt anything, in my opinion. You're getting NHL experience. You're around an NHL locker room. You're hanging out with the guys, building relationships, things like that. So I don't see the negative in it. And then when the day comes where somebody gets sent down, that's a big boost for the Phantoms who need it after that butt whooping they took in opening night. But I think we agree with the rotating rookie. So here we go. Let's move on to the hot topic of the day, Jack. You know what this one's going to be?
I can't remember.
I'm not talking about love here. The goal song for the Philadelphia Flyers. Once again, a hot topic of conversation. I believe it's Van Halen.
Mm-hmm.
And help me with the song name because I don't want to get it wrong.
Shit, I don't remember.
I think it's maybe one of the listeners can chime in here. Ain't Talking About Love is what it was. Sorry, I think I said that. But yeah, you like it?
Yeah, I do. I mean, it's not like my first pick, but it is like I never understood the choices over the previous couple of seasons. Like when you score a goal, the stadium is rocking. Like you should play a song that is rocking. It almost has felt comedic what they've played afterwards. Like I'm like every song I grew up with, and apparently this song was played before. I don't really remember that, but like the Gary Glitter History of Rock and Roll song, the Dupe, the what was that one song? I used to really like it too. It was da 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 da.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's the Blackhawks.
Or not that one. Right, that is the Blackhawks. There's we had one. This is going to kill me now because I love this.
That song haunted me for at least a year.
I know, and here I am singing it. Hold on. We had a song like not similar, but like people wording like that. It wasn't just like a jingle.
They had like the Becky Lynch or whatever that was. I don't watch wrestling, so I think that's right.
I knew
right?
who you're
Becky
talking
Lynch.
about. Hold on, it was like 2009. Let's see if this comes up and I'll blast it. You're off here. But like when you hear a song like that, or you score a goal, you want something that like it pumps you up. You
the crowd going.
The crowd is already kind of going. I used to be able to hear the goal horn, and then like a really great song after that. Like you're almost like cheering with it, going along with it. You felt good, and they had this like somber stuff. Like they're trying to like, what are they gonna play next? The Cure? You know, they're gonna try to calm you down or something. Brohim, that's it. Thank you, Zach. The Brohim, that song. Let me play it for you. Know what I'm talking about, Jim?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, Pennywise.
You do know what I'm talking about. Okay,
Yeah.
that song I liked. You know, that like that kind of stuff. Like I just never understood. You score a goal, you should be jacked up. Especially, God forbid, you're playing the Penguins, close game. You know, take the lead. God forbid, scoring overtime. You know, and you want to play like this soft shit. Like I never understood that. So this was an easy one for me. I think they can do even better, but I'm very picky when it comes to that stuff. But I didn't understand. They have to change appeasing an older crowd. How about appeasing a normal crowd? Like, what are we gonna go to read a book after they score or something? I don't know. It was baffling to me. I knew they were going to change it because the previous regime's gone. So that just goes hand in hand, and then to have an issue with because we went to an older song. What?
Yeah, I didn't.
Now we're just crying for the sake of crying.
Yeah, that's pretty much what. Personally, I was never a fan of Van Halen. I'm just not a big fan of like the hair band era and whatnot. But the song's fine, and the part that they play when they score a goal is fine. Like that's what fans around the league do. I think the only part that plays is when they go, hey, 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 like that. Like, all right, that's fine. Get the crowd going. They're not playing out the entire song. So I know the perspective that you're talking about, and respect the writer, respect the guy. The opinion was complete garbage, though. The song, it's a friggin' goal song.
Unneeded. It's just unneeded. It's the goal song.
It was unnecessary. Yeah. With everything the team is doing to change the image, to bring back fans that used to love the team. It's not so much that they're catering, but they're trying to build something back that was torn down from a regime that was catering to, and I don't want to say the wrong fans because there's not necessarily a wrong fan.
Correct.
But there are fans, there are diehard fans. I'm just going to say, like, there are fans who will love the Flyers even when they suck, right? The last regime was catering to a fan base that will only come if there are gimmicks. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
They just like, for example, I'm a Phillies fan. Don't get me wrong. You go to the game and you watch a game, Jack. I go to a game and I'm like, well, where can we stand? Well, let's stand next to a good food spot and just kind of walk around the stadium. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
That's what they were trying to change Flyers games into. And it's like, no. Flyers fans, they get to a game, they get their food, they get their asses in the seats, right? The only time they get up is between periods to take a piss or get a drink. You know what I mean? They get their asses back in the seats. They don't need these crazy rage rooms. They don't need these fair weather fans. They go for the hockey. Make the hockey experience about hockey. And
And
I don't know.
Everything you're saying, especially with this goal song issue, reminds me of what some asshole said when they first came here, and it was Flyers fans are going to have to get used to it. Fungal. There you go, Jim. Yeah, well, ain't getting used to nothing. The only thing we got used to since that you know what came here was losing. Okay, so like, don't try to change anything. We're here and we've always been here because we actually like the sport. We want to see the team win. I don't want to tour a hockey stadium. Who does that? Baseball stadiums are gorgeous. They're beautiful. They're outdoors. You know, a hockey stadium, is that a joke? Like, no, we're here to watch the team win. We're here to all that matters is that they win. I don't care where I see the game from. I don't care if there's a rage room or take a nap room or a jail underneath the ice. As long as the team wins.
Right. They did some modifications to the locker room too. It looks pretty good. They made a little
looks gorgeous,
like a Snyder corner. Yeah, they're doing things right, man. That's the stuff they should have been renovating. Let's get to some comments here from Teddy before we wrap up. Brohim, Pennywise, WWE Becky Lynch's song was better. Upbeat, gets the crowd going. Philly hosts WrestleMania next year. Van Halen was Lindros days. What about the new era? No. All right, so you're not a fan. That's fine.
Well, one, I know that the Gary Glitter song was Lindros era as well. So I wonder if they switched over late 2000s, but it couldn't have lasted long because I don't remember that very, very much. And my point was, I'm not even necessarily a huge fan of it. I just think it's better than what they had. and that I will argue to the death. What's next? If we kept going the old route, we'd be playing Enya and everybody would be pull out a book after a goal.
Here we go. Here from Teddy. No one likes Van Halen. You're not alone.
Jeez, look, I'm not a Van Halen fan, but I don't know.
But it's a classic song with a chorus that's going to get everyone chanting the same thing, and you know that's a goal song. It's a goal song.
It is what it is. Thing. Yeah, exactly. You got to get everybody going.
It's just what it is. Like, would I listen to the song in the car? You know, on my way to wherever? No, I would change the station. But it is a goal song. It's a good goal song, is what.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah, exactly.
All right, one more comment. What's obnoxious is there are still Flyers fans who only root for the Flyers and won't root for the other teams in this. I don't know too many of these people, whether they do that intentionally or not. I think for Jack and I, the Flyers are head and shoulders above any other Philly sports team. That doesn't mean we don't root for them. Jack's one of the bigger Philly fans that I know. So I don't know too many of these people. Show them to us, Teddy.
I did want to answer one of Teddy's earlier questions real quick.
Yeah, which one?
He asked us if
I missed it. This one here? I'm sorry.
No, that's a good one, though. Go for it.
Okay. Your thoughts, Igor Zamula isn't one of these guys who are staying in college like Cutter.
Oh, this goes back to the summer.
He needs this to have a better life.
He's saying because Cutter's skipping camp because he's,
guy. It's not a rich kid playing around. Interesting.
Ultimately, when it comes to the Zamula, I think it comes back to Isaiah's comment about the weight finally coming on and staying on. He does look bigger. I like that he's got number 5. All I see is like another Coburn who was an effective player. He gets a lot of hate, and it's mostly some of the younger generations Coburn was forced to play top minutes. He wasn't really a top line guy. Well, do we see Zamula as a top pairing guy? No. So if he was to be a Coburn middle pairing guy, that'd be a home run. That'd be great. Coburn was phenomenal in his role when Pronger was here, when Tiemann was here. Like, we still need to go get those guys. We don't see Zamula as that guy. If he could be the Coburn, and even play on the lower pairings, you got a lot of good decent defensemen to go along with whatever you need. So, I mean, I'm looking at Zamula as almost a guy I wrote off. So to even be speaking that is like
house money.
Yeah, there you go, house money. But what I was going to answer real quick is he asked us, was Matthews and McDavid first overall pick on our draft? So we have a keeper league, dynasty league, since 2018. I will say this, Jim, I don't think you took. I don't know when you drafted, but it was whoever drafted number 2 really screwed up. But it was McDavid, and this league is heavy on goalies. So whoever drafted number 2 took Braden Holtby. I knew it at the time. That was a horrible pick.
Are you kidding me? I don't remember that.
I do because I had the 3rd pick and I wanted Matthews. I was like, I'm like looking at backups. I'm like, do I go Patrick Kane? He's getting older. I don't like that. Kucherov was the name floating around. And I was like, I want Matthews. So it was my favorite pick of the draft because that means Matthews went to me at 3. So to answer your question, in 2018, to start the Dynasty League, McDavid went 1, Matthews went 3 to yours truly.
Matthews was my first round pick this year in the new Dynasty League that I'm in. I think you helped me with that one. I was torn between Matthews and Jack Hughes. Jack Hughes would have been a fine pick, but
that's funny because Jack Hughes is your guy in the league I'm referring to.
Yep. How do you top 2 hat tricks to open a season? You can't.
He's the Nick Castellanos of the regular season.
How about those Phils? 6 more, huh?
Dude, fucking ridiculous.
Yeah, they've been fun to watch.
Never seen anything like it.
Streak ends at whatever it was. All right.
Yeah, but he still got it.
What's that?
What streak? Who are you talking about?
The F-word streak.
Oh, yeah. Well, never mind.
That's all right. The season started. You can't expect it to not come out. All right. Anything else, Shaq, before we wrap this one up?
Not that I can think of.
All right. Then let's put a bow on this one, boys and girls. One last time, give us a subscribe and a follow. Listen to us on all of our listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or watch us here on YouTube. Set alerts for weekly shows and favorite hoo.be/HW Hockey, or head over to hwhockey.net for all of our latest episodes and articles. As always, thank you for hanging out. Thank you to our guest. Flyers do play tomorrow night against the Edmonton Oilers. We'll see you next week. Enjoy the rest of the week and have a good weekend. See you guys next week. Bye-bye.
For us, they are, Teddy. For us, they are.
Oh, Teddy snuck one more in there, didn't he? The son of a gun.
He did. I tried to sneak in.